morning, and welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. This morning we are diving into Exodus chapter 7. So today we get introduced to the first plague upon Egypt. But before we quite get there, let's go see what's happening here. As we remember, Moses yesterday was saying, "Why am I doing this again? Why do you want me?" And God, of course, says, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. Like I'm taking care of things." And that you shall do whatever I've asked you. And again, we have this little line in here that says in verse 3, "But I will harden Pharaoh's heart." Which is again makes us think, but at the same time we have to think of it in a broader sense too, of God knowing Pharaoh's heart and knowing Pharaoh's resolve. And what happens is that because of God knowing what Pharaoh's heart will do, God is able to show the world who God is. It's through Pharaoh's hardened heart that God's wonders are made known to all of the Egyptians, including Pharaoh and all of the Israelites. If Pharaoh did not have this hard heart, there would be no point for whatever follows. He would have been this good guy, took care of everything, everybody would be living in a comfortable place, and it'd be okay. So, almost in a way, it's like they're working together so that God can be made known to all the people. So it's just very interesting part in here, though, that because after a while, we'll discover is that Pharaoh is no longer, it's like God's not doing it anymore. Pharaoh's choosing it now of Pharaoh's own will to be. So there's this sense in which first, at first it's like God's going to use this, but what we'll see is throughout the plagues is over time, Pharaoh will actually start. Like God's like, I don't have to do this anymore. Like he's taking care of this all on his own. So there's that sense in that, I've been just thinking about this on a side because, the idea that God would harden somebody's heart. But I think about my own life and how I don't know that God hardened my heart, but like I know that I was really stubborn in some areas, but there were lessons I needed to learn in that stubbornness for me to get past it. And there were good lessons that I needed to learn in that stubbornness. But if I would have never had that stubbornness, I would have never learned the lesson, if that makes sense. And so, and maybe God did harden my heart so that I could learn the lesson. But once I learned the lesson, like I get to, my will is free. I have the ability to do that. So I kind of see this in Pharaoh's sense, but that's maybe me being too nice, or because I like to think of a God who has given us free will. So that's kind of how I like to read this, is understanding that there's a point in which maybe God was like, I'm not going to make it easy for him, but there's a point where Pharaoh's free will does come into play. So we have that. So then we find out. I love verse 7. For anyone who tells me that they are too old for ministry, it says Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. And so here we go. They are not their young spunky kids going out there to face Pharaoh. These are mature older men who are beginning their ministry later in life. And so I love this. I love this. They're just getting started at this age. So anybody who says that they're too old or they're retired, nah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's the time when ministry really begins, is at retirement. So with that, what they're going to do is use Aaron's rod to turn the Nile into blood. and and all these like snakes start coming out. Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead. Sorry. So the first thing that it does is Aaron makes his staff, turn into a snake, and the other people are the sorcerers and stuff are like, hey, we can do that too. So they turn all their staffs into snakes. But what happens is Aaron's rod swallows up all of theirs. So it's the first sign that God's power is greater. And then we have our first plague. And so Moses goes to the Nile and it turns to blood. It says all the fish die, and like everything in people's vessels that have come from the Nile have turned to blood and everything. And so now there's nothing to drink. So now there's this plague upon them to drink. Now, what happens in this, I think, is important because, as another commentator that I read says, is that not only is this like a plague over Egypt that happens, and there's 10 of them. And so that's another, 10 is a number of completeness, that there's like complete destruction happening here. But also, this commentator said that for each of the plagues that we see here, it is our God, Yahweh, Elohim, I am who I am, is showing that the power over an Egyptian god. And so one of the Egyptian gods is the god of the Nile. And God is showing God's power over this god. And that we'll see that with each plague actually is represented by an Egyptian god. And so God is showing God's power over all of the Egyptian gods through this. And I think that's really important for us to recognize, that it's about showing that our God is the Almighty God, is Creator God, is the best God. And so there should be no other gods before me, as God will say. And so we see this first plague as that. And we'll see all the different destruction that comes all along with each one of these. And so, but remembering, the Nile was the source of livelihood. They're being attacked at their root right here. And it says, 7 days passed after the Lord had struck the Nile. And then we end here. So, with that, maybe a few tidbits to get out of today, that that you're never too old to start ministry, and where have we hardened our hearts against God, and we need to kind of work through that. And what gods have we put in our life that God needs to overcome? That where we need to see that our God is better than the gods we've created in our life. So that's today's devotion. I will see you tomorrow for Exodus. Actually, I take that back. I have decided that I'm going to start trying to take Friday mornings off as a Sabbath for myself. And so I'll actually join you next week on Monday for Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotions. Thanks so much. Have a great day.